Hey guys, welcome back to another Apple News Week. So there's a number of new rumors surrounding the 2020 iPhones, presumably the iPhone 12s, and new technologies which are coming to the iPhone, which is shaping up to be the most exciting upgrade to the iPhone ever. It's obviously the Super Cycle. We've got the new design incoming, a new display, potentially no or smaller notch, completely new internals from what we're hearing in this video, and more. And there's a number of new products they're releasing in 2022 that I wanted to cover, and iOS 13.3. So this just dropped, beta 1. There's a number of new changes inside. One really good one, and we'll cover that at the end. And of course, I wanted to choose the AirPods giveaway as it's been a while. It actually took 2 days just to draw the winners because so many people participated, so thanks for that. Now, I wanted to start with Ben Geskin's leak regarding the iPhone 12's PCB logic board. Apparently, Apple will be going to a triple stacked logic board. Right now, they're using this dual stack on the iPhone 11 Pro series, and it's really amazing, what they've done in this small amount of space, how much technology, they've managed to squeeze in with the Apple A13, and they're apparently pushing that even further for the iPhone 12. In order to better optimize the internals, they'll be stacking it. I'm guessing there will be a thicker middle section, and then each side on the other side of it will be covered in all these components, and they'll sandwich together, giving Apple a little bit more space for some internals on the inside. And of course, it's going to be bundled with the new Apple A14. So International Business Times actually picked up on a report saying that the Apple A14 will indeed be 5 nanometers. So TSMC is pushing hard to make that a reality, and it's very likely that they will make good time in order to put this in Apple's new Super Cycle iPhone. The fact that it's going to be 5 nanometers is just profound. I mean, next to the original iPhones at 90 nanometers, Apple has sure come a long way, and reportedly in the future, TSMC is going down to 3 nanometers, is what they think is possible at this point in time. And in conjunction to that, Nikkei Asian Review published a large report on Apple's intentions with the 2020 iPhones, and inside, after talking to several leading industry sources, they're saying that Apple will be including Qualcomm's new X55 5G modem in all 3 new iPhones in 2020. So that's very exciting because this is the latest and greatest 5G technology. It's a second generation 5G chip from Qualcomm. It's better than anything Intel could have produced if they were making modems. With a theoretic download speed of 7 gigabits and 3 gigabit upload, just mental. Not that any carrier will support that, but Apple's entrance into 5G will be with somewhat slightly mature technology. Now, in order to accommodate for that 5G technology, Ben Geskin is claiming that Apple is widening the antenna bands on the iPhone, and they'll now be wider than 1 millimeter. I'm assuming that Apple will have to make some drastic hardware differences to support this technology, and that's just one of them. He says that the actual material of the antenna bands will change as well to that of glass, ceramic, or sapphire. Although Ben Geskin's source claims that Apple is working on several prototypes of Face ID with new optics and sizes. They're testing a module that's not as wide in order to make the notch smaller, or one that's narrower in order to fit into the actual upper bezel. If they could figure that out, they can solve that full screen display issue right now without having to put it underneath of the glass, and therefore delaying the notch for another 3 years. So at the very least, a smaller notch, but to remove it altogether and just place it into the bezel, that would make that Super Cycle just completely perfect. I'm genuinely curious to see how Apple will end up solving this problem. Will they shrink the notch? Will they remove it? Will we have a hole punch camera, which I highly doubt? Will they leave the notch? Because whatever happens, we're going to have that for 3 years until Apple Super Cycles once again, according to their new 3-year refresh strategy. And Nikkei did confirm that Apple is working on adding a 3D sensing camera to the rear of the 2020 iPhones. And this will be used for AR applications, 3D scanning models. It's really not an obscure feature anymore. A lot of new smartphones include it. And I wanted to mention that next year's iPhone may get a 120 Hz ProMotion display. There's been a couple whispers about that. Nothing concrete, but Ice Universe mentioned that it was being talked about being added to the iPhone, and Digitimes is claiming there's a bigger need for it in 2020 because of 5G technology. In which way those are connected, I'm not entirely sure. But Ice Universe also demonstrated that 90 versus 60 Hertz makes a huge difference in the speed and opening of apps, just general user interface navigation. I can attest to that after using the Pixel 4. It feels really good just to do basic things. I'm sure it'll kill battery life even faster. I don't care, I want it. Also, an earlier report from the Elec claims that Apple will be using an LTPO display in future iPhones. It's the same display that the Apple Watch Series 5 got in order to enable that always-on display mode with with a 1 Hz refresh rate. It takes up more battery life, but it would allow for complications and always on apps on the iPhone. Just the possibilities would really be cool here. And also what gives me hope regarding ProMotion on the iPhone is that Samsung just created their Exynos 990 processor, and inside they added a dedicated driver to manage 120 Hz displays. This means that Samsung will be producing these displays likely soon, and Apple sources their displays from Samsung, at least a very large chunk of them, which means that there could be some sort of interaction between the two in the future with that technology. I certainly hope so. And something interesting I found regarding Samsung is that they will no longer be producing their own custom CPU cores in their Exynos processors, instead licensing from ARM, and it mostly comes down to money here. It's just not worth it for them. Really goes to show you how spectacular Apple's processor game is here. You know, they have been killing it for years and will be for the foreseeable future. Ben Geskin claims that Apple's long-term plan for the iPhone with ports in mind is to remove the Lightning port altogether, that Apple will have a completely sealed enclosure in favor of ultra-wideband transfer technology, which will have a speed of 500 megabits at 3 meters, 110 at 10 meters. It seems adequate enough to replace the port, but I wonder, along the way to that technology, will we still get USB-C? Will we get that mythical MagSafe at one point? It's long been rumored that the 2020 iPhones will get USB-C, but we really haven't heard much about that lately. I guess we'll see the closer we get. It's also kind of mental to me that we had the design for the iPhone 11 Pro in January. So at this rate, maybe a couple months until we see the 2020 iPhone 1, or is that just wishful thinking? And some new SE2 leaks. Ming Chi Kuo is claiming Apple will first be using their liquid crystal polymer technology for antennas. This is rumored for the 2020 iPhones on the iPhone SE2 first. I wonder why. Could it support 5G? I think we've heard a rumor that it might somewhere, but for a budget device at $400 doesn't really make sense. Also, he's claiming Apple will be selling 20 million of these in 2020, potentially 30 million optimistically here, and that Apple will be using a more complex SLP motherboard inside. This is essentially a stacked design, thicker logic board, which first arrived on the iPhone X. The first generation SE did not have this. It only makes sense since it will be housing the Apple A13. You can't just stick that into an old board on the iPhone 8. He also claims production will begin in January with a launch sometime in March. Also, according to Apple CFO, we likely will not see a triple lens iPad Pro in 2019 because of adjusted launch timing. That's been pushed back probably to the March 2020 event. And there's been another leak of the AirTags interface by Mac Rumors, giving us an idea of how that'll look when you're going to set them up. We don't know when these will release. I'm actually very much looking forward to them to replace my tiles coming from Apple. I'm sure the integration will be amazing. And also Mark Gurman of Bloomberg has detailed several new products coming in 2020. And when this man speaks, usually what he says tends to happen. He's saying Apple will be releasing their new AR glasses in the second half of 2020, and that's that crazy project they've been working on for many years already. These glasses will have a holographic display and will overlay your texts, emails, maps, even games onto real-world objects in which you can interact with them. And he says that it will need a 5G iPhone in order to support this feature, likely with that new Apple A14 processor to support it, and it'll be an offloading off of the iPhone to support those glasses. Very curious how those will end up looking, but I didn't think that they would be coming this soon. Also, he mentioned that these glasses will one day be a successor to the iPhone, so you won't need a device to interact with. It'll all be natural and happening on your head in real time. I really can't picture that. I love holding my iPhone, but Apple always tends to surprise us, so we'll see. And he also mentioned that sleep tracking will be happening on the Apple Watch in 2020, so the Series 6 will come with that functionality that was rumored for Series 5. An ARM processor Max. So the custom chips from Apple will eventually migrate to the Mac in 2020. They're getting so close in performance that if Apple put in the effort, they could surpass Intel at this point in time. All right, let's take a look at iOS 13.3 and what's new and those AirPods winners. So a primary change in iOS 13.3 is the multitasking issue. If you're browsing the internet or going through apps and then you jump in and take a picture, do something remotely intensive, it'll go ahead and refresh and clear all of your apps, and for some reason it just did that again for me on 13.3. That's supposedly been fixed, and hopefully by final release Apple will figure out all the issues here. Also in the keyboard settings, there's a new option to disable Memoji stickers. That's where in emojis there's a section for those stickers that no one ever uses. Now you don't have to tolerate those in your view. The Apple Watch icon now features a silver insert in the crown, where before it was solid black. And now in screen time, there's a new section for communication limits. Control those here. And on iPads, they properly support the Beats Solo Pro with the controls now. Previously, you did not have any of this, just a generic Bluetooth icon with noise control off. And lastly, AirPod winners. I'll be contacting you on Instagram, all 6 of you, so keep an eye out. Thanks for watching, guys. Stay tuned for the next one.